Hello and welcome to GTF's discussion this morning. I'm joined by Zoran Milosevic, who is the Principal Consultant for KBC Process Technology. Zoran has probably served at more refineries than anybody else in the world on energy efficiency projects. So we're delighted to have him here this morning, and it's a pleasure. Zoran, welcome.
Thank you for inviting me, Elliot. My pleasure.
We're putting our energy efficiency conference on in Brussels on the 16th of April, and I know you'll be moderating that for us.
Indeed.
So can you just share with us a little bit more about that event?
Well, thank you for asking me to moderate the conference. It's my pleasure, and it's been my pleasure to attend this conference for quite a few years now. I think it is conceptually, it's so well prepared. It's a niche type of conference where you have people interested in energy, and the cross-section of people that you talk to is interesting because everybody is driven in the same direction. So that conference is focused, and I think it's beneficial for everybody who is involved in some kind of energy work. And I think most refineries would be today, because as I think we will discuss later, the energy is an unavoidable part of the profitability equation and is going to remain.
I mean, in a broader context now, do you see a recovery in the oil price in the near term?
Well, we have seen some recovery in the oil price, Elliot, and maybe more changes are to come. And perhaps to discuss that, maybe we should discuss why things are happening and what is happening in the world of oil these days. We know that prices have reached probably the lowest point of the last decade. If you think about it, the world of oil today, you can see as distinctly divided into two parts. There will be the US production and consumption, and there will be the rest of the world. If you could mentally take America out of this production consumption equation, the rest of the world is probably is well balanced with the production and consumption. It is the American production which keeps increasing in spite of the reduced oil prices. Americans simply keep on producing, and they can do that for various reasons. The Americans have this enormous, huge oil storage. I think it's more than 400 million barrels of storage. Only Cushing has, in Oklahoma, they have about, I don't know, maybe 90 million of total, maybe over 60 million of active storage. So Americans can afford to produce more oil and store it. And because American producers still cannot export oil, they store it, and American refineries, instead of buying, they buy American oil. There's of course a balance between the heavy and light. The American refineries have to fill up their cokers and FCC, so they cannot. They still have to import heavy crude oil because the American shale oil crude is lighter. So what happens on the margin is the American import of light crudes is reduced. So we have seen recently a slight increase in oil prices. This is a combination of factors. There's a cold American winter. There's the Iraq problems in Iraq. There's the sandstorms in Egypt. There was a bad weather in Turkey and fog in Phosphorus, and then only small ships can pass. So all that led to temporary increase in oil price. Now spring is coming, and the warm weather in the northern hemisphere, and with spring, some refineries will go into shutdown for the maintenance. So you may see again a drop in oil prices. It's difficult to predict. But the energy, back to energy becomes important if you look at the production of the refinery utilization across the world. The American refineries operated more than 90% utilization. The European refineries, unfortunately, less than 80, 77, 75% utilization. If you take into account the new Middle East refineries, which may start soon, depending where the Middle East oil is going to go, into the Europe or into the Asia, We may see European refineries dropping to 75 or even 70% utilization. Then we are in a completely different game plan for those refineries, because you operate differently at low throughput in terms of both yield and energy.
Do you think that, I mean, you mentioned earlier about the US refiners not being able to export crude, but there seems to be some licenses now coming through for exporting condensate. Do you envisage the Senate, I mean, do you think there are plans now for preparations for crude oil to be exported from the US, given the surplus there?
I think the world is prepared for that, or America is prepared for that.
You mentioned that obviously the world is divided into two. Could you comment a little bit more on how the Middle East could be the changing landscape in the Middle East in terms of what would happen to European refineries? Could you comment a little bit more on that?
Well, first from the production point of view, the Saudi are producing.
Yeah.
They have not cut down the production. Okay, it used to be coal and OPEC for the marginal production. That meant coal and Saudi. What the Saudis say now is that let market decide, which effectively means why should we intervene? Or it effectively means why should we subsidize the shale oil production by not producing?
So is it now call on shale now, or?
The Saudis say it's coal and market.
Coal and market.
It's coal and market. It's a fair play. It's coal and market. Let market decide. We can afford it. We can afford production. Our production cost is not terribly high. We can afford it. We have a sovereign fund of $750 maybe billion of cash. So we can afford it. Why should we reduce production? Fair enough. The Americans, on the other hand, have technology. They keep improving. The production cost is relatively low. It's approaching $30 a barrel. So even if you send oil from North Dakota to the East Coast, that freight may be about, I don't know, $12. So it's still competing with the Brent type crude coming from West Africa. So technology makes it more and more competitive. So that interplay between the technology, the low cost here, the low cost there, we don't know which way it is going. I don't know which way it's going to go. The point is, whatever happens, the demand on energy efficiency is not going to disappear. So if you go back to our conference, that topic is going to be ever more and more important.
And do you think refiners are taking adequate measures right now to address that?
The efficiency of European refineries, and when you say energy efficiency, the core is the European refining. At low capacity, at low throughput, at competition coming from the Middle Eastern refineries, potential exports from America and from Middle East into Europe, the only way the good old European refinery can cope is efficiency and excellence. So it's a constant story, efficiency and excellence, operational excellence in European refineries. So it's a never-ending story. The European refineries have improved energy efficiency. So maybe they go about half of Solomon's EII per year over the last 10 or 15 years. So they keep improving. What happens is if you do not improve, then you're going to stay behind. So even though you may have been a first quartile refinery, if everybody else improves, then you become a second quartile refinery or even third quartile. Then you want to improve, and it's an ever never-ending story. So especially at low throughput, the effect of energy efficiency on the profit margin is even greater at low throughput. We have lived long in the world of conversion before capacity. Okay, so it's conversion, and conversion capacity has been lower because you make more money by conversion than capacity in the low turn-down situation. And then energy becomes even more important. But it's not easy to maintain high energy efficiency at low throughput. There's a specific measures. You do things differently at low throughput. There's a kind of energy survey, energy optimization at high throughput. There's energy optimization at low throughput, slightly different.
And do you think there's any regional variations?
Well, Europe with the old refineries, the only option is to continuously improve. So whereas in Europe it's improvement by improvement by improvement, in the new refineries it's start building an efficient refinery in the first place. So that's what even Middle East refineries, when energy is relatively inexpensive, their own energy is relatively inexpensive, you still see that they go for very efficient designs, thinking about the future.
In configuration terms.
Configuration types and how you design the refinery. And you can design the refinery or a process unit with higher or lower efficiency. It will cost you less to install a lower efficient furnaces. Not necessarily low efficient preheat trains using pinch technology, if we use our familiar term. But generally speaking, it can be made cheaper to make an energy inefficient refinery. But nevertheless, they invest in energy efficient equipment, energy efficient motors, pumps, turbo generators, even though at the moment it may not be required. But still these new refineries tend to be high efficient.
Do you see that energy efficiency takes a lot of capital expenditure in those terms, or are these OPEX type activities?
Both. There would be both. Typically, you would if you do an energy survey of a refinery, you will find maybe 1/3 would be a non-investment type opportunities. So you can do a lot. You can do a lot by optimizing the operation, installing better monitoring, awareness of energy, where energy is going, and how you can reduce it. Then there will be a short, quick payback projects, and then there will be a longer payback projects. So the thing is what you allow, what kind of payback you allow, and return on investment in energy. You can go back then to the topic of yield versus energy. Where do you invest? Okay. Traditionally, energy used to take a back seat. So we want a new process units, and we want a new catalyst, and we want a new technology, and we want a new instrumentation and monitoring systems. But refineries who think about energy seriously, they started differentiating between the yield and energy stuff. Because the differentials between the products and crude and crack spreads, they change. But the energy cost continuously goes up. So if you install an energy-related project, you know it sits there and makes money all the time.
Because it's basically a fixed cost.
Because it reduces your fixed cost, and that energy cost typically only increases. Whereas if you invest in yield-related project, the economics of those may depend on the differentials and the product pricing. So best practice in energy investment is actually to differentiate in favor of energy projects. Because many energy managers now realize we invest it sits there and makes money all the time. So they allow longer paybacks on energy projects than other projects. So we have seen that. And
do you think it's a relatively recent trend in the last 5 years? As you know,
it is a recent trend.
Okay.
We have not seen that 10 years ago, 15 years ago.
Why do you think that could? Is it
just economic incentive, and people realize that the energy projects, that's the feature, that's the unique feature, and then people realize how the products differentiate, how unpredictable the economics of yield-related projects are.